On Monday, June 22nd, the All Progressives Congress will be holding its primary elections ahead of the governorship election in September. But the party is at the moment fighting a fire that threatens to burn down the whole house if it's not contained and put out in the next couple of days. The bone of contention being the position of national chairman, which became vacant in the wake of a court pronouncement that upheld the suspension of Adams Oshiomhole. How best can the APC wriggle out of this situation, which many analysts have called self-inflicted injury? How can the party manage the many egos and aspirations contending for the soul of the party, not just in Edo State, but also at the national level? What about the Oshiomhole factor, and how can it affect the entire primary election process? To catch up on all of this, we are now being joined from our Rise Abuja studio by Daniel Bwala, a lawyer, notary public, a member of the Honorable Society of the Lincolns in London. He contested for the Senate during the 2019 general election in the All Progressives Congress and was the secretary of the 2020 Edo Governorship Election Appeals Committee. Daniel Bwala, welcome to the Morning Show. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you for having me on. But permit me to note that I contested for the APC primaries.
Could you help us make a sense of what is happening in the All Progressives Congress? All hell seems to have broken loose in your party. On one day, this week, the party had 4 different party chairmen. What has happened to the dispute resolution mechanism within the party? Where is the Board of Trustees? Where is the National Executive Committee? What exactly is going on that your party has become so factionalized?
Well, thank you for having me on. The problem associated, or the problem that the party is confronted with at the moment, I do not think is strange in Nigerian politics. However, we find it strange in the party because of the hydra-headed nature of the problem. But let me begin with what you said, when you referenced Monday and having 3 chairmen. There was actually, there was no material time where we had 3 chairmen. We have one meddlesome interloper who was parading himself as a chairman, acting chairman. But even at the time he was parading himself as acting chairman, he didn't have the legal capacity. He had earlier obtained an order ex parte restraining the national chairman from acting and reporting to the office, and in the said order, he was said to have been anointed by the court to act in acting capacity. That order which he obtained, we know as lawyers that ex parte orders last for 7 days and renewable for another 7 days without more. And from when he obtained the order to the moment this last Monday, it was more than 2 months. So in actual fact, that order had outlived its usefulness. And the order is nothing more than, like I said a few days ago, like piece of paper that you find on the street. But he continued to parade himself. So having established that, he yesterday obtained another order, purported to have been an extension of the order which he obtained, which to me as a lawyer is quite strange in the first place, because we know that ex parte orders, when you obtain them, it is a temporary restriction pending the date named in that order when the interlocutory application is going to be taken. So ordinarily, the order haven't died a natural death. The usual assumption in law that we know is that there will be a named date for the hearing of the interlocutory application, and then you proceed with the substance of the case. But strangely, we heard that he got an order, extended that ex parte order, which in law never existed because it died a natural death, like the way COVID-19, after 14 days, if it does not create a problem in someone's life, it will die naturally. So strangely, we find that. And the said order, up until yesterday in the evening, to the best of my knowledge, was not served on any of the parties in that action. And strangely, Mr. Ruben, you being a lawyer, the senior lawyer at that, you will know that in civil action or even in criminal action, parties that are affected by orders of court are parties that are parties in the action, parties that are named in the action. And except where there is a specific prayer for someone who is not a party to the action, In this case, the man parading himself as the acting chair is not a party to the suit. And yesterday, after the order, the claimant or the plaintiff who went to court in the first place issued a statement that he was not, and he's still not a party to the suit. He does not have, nobody has his authorization to continue to prosecute the case. Naturally, in law, that matter would have died down, being that the plaintiff is no longer pursuing his matter. But welcome to Nigeria.
For the sake of much-needed clarity in this APC crisis, who is that person that you're referring to as a meddlesome interloper?
One Christopher, no, is it Victor? Or, so one Giadom. I know the surname is Giadom.
Thank you for clarifying.
All right. I'd like to know, why is it that the APC has to now go to court every time to settle its squabbles, despite the fact that it took out time to write a constitution, which should also be a document to be able to settle its internal squabbles, and it has a mechanism for settling its squabbles. And you said something that I'll shrug at, that there's nothing new about what's happening in the APC. Correct me if I'm wrong. In Nigeria's political life, this is the first of its kind, that I'm going to see a political party that somebody once drew a schedule of party chairmen, one that serve in the morning, some that serve in the afternoon. I know that's a joke anyway, but it shows what is happening in the APC as we speak. Something is not right, and it is unprecedented.
Right. First of all, a party that is aggrieved in any matter whatsoever, not even a political party, can approach the court under a democratic setting. Because if you don't have the option of approaching the court, the next option is to take laws into your hand. So there is no problem with any party or anybody aggrieved with whatever situation he found himself to approach the court. Now, in relation to APC as a party, APC never took anybody to court. So that's the first impression I'm trying to correct. Members of APC were the ones going to the court. And Article 21 of the party's constitution states in clear terms that where a member of the party is aggrieved with the party in any situation, he must exhaust the internal mechanisms of dispute resolution without going to court before he gets to the court. Where a member fails to exhaust the internal mechanisms of the court and goes to court, that person stands expelled from the party. And let me emphasize, expelled, not disqualified. And it does, that provision, Article 21, does not leave discretion or give discretion to NWC to ratify or not to ratify. You stand expelled. And that was the position I held when Governor Obaseki took the party to the court, because I was privileged to be in the appeals committee, and we reviewed the decisions of the trial committee. And we realized that even when he appeared before them, for instance, he told them he has taken the party to the court. And the provision of the Constitution, Article 21, is clear, even to the blind. So once you institute an action without exhausting the internal mechanism, you are no longer a member of APC. Now, but what we find, like in the case of Giadom, there is a political connotation to it. There is this understanding that some persons who are interested in 2023 want to take over the party, and so they are funding him. I'm even hearing, I don't know, I'm sure I'm even hearing that he does not even have the vote of confidence from the very constituency, his ward, where he came from. But suffice to say that once a matter gets to the court, it is left for the court to deal with the matter, and then at the end of the day, we'll be able to know whose right it is at any time or any point in time. But it is clear from the decision of the Supreme Court in 2020, I think in Pere and APC, where it says that even if a party reaches a decision wrongly against a candidate of a party, the only remedy available to him is to seek for a platform in another political party, but not to take the party to the court.
Well, let me ask you. The party primary APC for the gubernatorial election is on Monday, all right? On the 22nd of June. What should we expect? Should we expect a coronation of Ize Yamu, who seems to be the person everyone is pointing to as the person that has been anointed this time around by Comrade Adam Soshomole?
As per whether someone is anointed is a fact that is not available or known to me, but I know the constitution of the party is clear against the procedure for emergence of someone in our political party. Either you go by direct primaries, you go by indirect primaries, or you go by consensus. Consensus sometimes takes place where parties are addendum as to who is to represent them. At the moment, I am aware that three aspirants were screened and cleared to contest. What we're reading in the news is that the two of them have so far agreed in principles to step down for him. To step down for Eze Iyamo. If they have indeed stepped down to Eze Iyamo, then the part of the constitution that will be activated now is the consensus. So there will be what you call affirmation, which is also provided by our party's constitution and the guidelines. But again, I have to say, the right of a party to pursue his right and to seek to represent the party in the general election is his own right and cannot be infringed by anyone. But in political process, you can also not restrict individuals from having a conversation for the purposes of arriving at a decision for representation. Just in the same way, we're also reading in the news media that Governor Obaseki in PDP is also trying to reach a consensus, and that in fact is because they couldn't reach a consensus. That is why the party has rescheduled their primaries, which is in clear contradiction and in clear violation of the provisions of the Electoral Act and the guidelines of INEC that said you must provide 21 days. 21 days to your primaries, you must notify INEC. And if you have changed any date, you are rescheduling any date, you have 7 days notice. Given the time restraint, I don't know where and when PDP is finding legality in what they are doing, but that's another story for another day. But in a nutshell, regarding who represents the party in APC, if there is a consensus agreement as to one person, the procedure of the party's constitution will be applied in affirmation and the person will then represent. For me, as a member of the party, whoever emerges as a candidate of the party will definitely win.
Lost him there. Looks like there is a problem of connection with the Abuja studio.
Yeah.
Daniel Bwala, are you still with us? Well,
We're trying. We can't get back.
Exciting times.
It's like he's back with us. Daniel Bwala,
Can you
hear us in the studio here in Lagos?
Yeah.
Yes, we can hear you. If you may continue.
I can hear you, but I don't know if you can hear me.
Yeah, we lost you for a few seconds.
So I can...
You can go ahead.
I hear you now.
2 seconds. So if it is in 2 seconds that you lost me, is it 2 seconds to my starting or 2 seconds to my concluding part?
2 seconds to your conclusion.
Okay, so I said that whoever emerges as a candidate of our party in the elections in Edo governorship election, I can tell you categorically that that person will win the election because his opponent is someone who has just left our party and already has a legal disability in the election. So even if, first of all, whoever represents our party will be the winner in the elections, but assuming without considering that the person comes second, and then Governor Obaseki moves to PDP and wins first, it is a clear case of what in law we call locus classicus, that there has been a decision of court regarding qualification as a ground for which somebody will be nullified, one's election will be nullified. So whichever way you look at it, we are good to go and we're crossing above sea level.
Well, that's very confident of you. But as you said earlier, intra-party imbroglios are nothing new in the Nigerian political space. And another unfortunate recurring decimal that we see is electoral violence. This situation between Adams Oshiomhole and Obaseki has created such tension. What are your views on the fears that a lot of people have that this tension could erupt into violence?
Well, it is natural to have that fear and to be concerned about that. But I trust that we're running a government that has law enforcement. And now the burden has shifted to the law enforcement in the country. And we have a wide layers of law enforcement in the country that we are hoping will do their job that they are paid for and ensure that the election is devoid of violence. You see, the problem we've often had, and one who is a practitioner of law, when election petitions are prosecuted in court, you find this aspect where security agencies are lacking one way or the other. And I expect that in this election there shouldn't be, because this is not a national election, so to speak. This is an election that will take place, and you don't have more than 2 states at a time in the country. And so we should have enough agents of law enforcement that will ensure that they suppress violence. given the situation of COVID-19, I'm sure that the guidelines and the protocols for the election will be unleashed or will be released by INEC. And when that time comes, we'll be able to know the modalities. Who knows? Maybe the guidelines and the procedure and the protocols might be such that it will not give room for any form of violence. But without prejudice to what INEC is going to release as a protocol, the law enforcement are mandated by law and paid by the taxpayers' money to ensure that they stop the promotion of crime and violence in our society.
Right, let's talk about possibilities. I'm hearing there's a strong possibility that Adams Oshiomhole can appeal and indeed be the chairman of the APC again. What should he do as regards that? What's the legal pathway to get in that position?
First of all, he actually challenged the suspension because the suspension was done by a faction that is not recognized by law and by a faction that has since been expelled from the party. Now, because at the trial court, he did not join issues with the other fellow, that was the premise on which the order of the suspension was validated. Assuming he joined issues at the time, the court would have, without wasting of time, dismissed that action that was filed by the plaintiff or claimant in this case. But having not joined issues at the trial court, now he went to the Court of Appeal. Court of Appeal reasoned in the direction of the trial court. But one fact that you cannot take out is the rights of parties. The Supreme Court has the powers under their relevant rules to assume the position of a trial court in the event that injustice is being meted. Because the whole gamut of election and the democratic process is the will and the wishes of the people. And there is no law and democracy if the will and the wishes of the people will not be ascertained, validated, or promoted by the code of law. So he is very firm and believes in the strength of his matter. But if he chooses to go to the Supreme Court, because I'm not aware he has gone yet, but if he chooses to go to the Supreme Court, he has a very strong course of action to pursue in that regard. I have also, in a media, a few days ago, in another media house, said there is a non-legal approach to him returning to the party without wasting time. I had already said it's in the public domain, so I can say it. You see, the High Court validated a suspension. Court of Appeal affirmed the decision for the suspension. Now, pursuant to the decision, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Clearly. We can hear you. Please continue.
So, pursuant to the decision of the Court of Appeal, which established the sanctity and the power of a ward executive, that same ward executive can pass a resolution to say we have considered again the issue, we have lifted the suspension, and have recalled Comrade Adams Oshiomhole into the party. If they pass a resolution to that effect, that resolution will now be sent to the National Working Committee as a notice of his readmittance. Upon the proof of receipt of that resolution, automatically Comrade Adams Oshiomhole stands return, and he can return to his office without having to go to court to determine rights and liabilities, because in this instance, the said suspension, which has been validated by the court, is lifted by an executive, and the court does not have power to stop the executive from recalling someone.
But Mr. Bwala, is it the same Esako Ward 10 that was in wild jubilation and celebration, allegedly by video, that will do this for Adams Oshiomhole at this point in time? Is it the same Esako Ward 10 that was jubilating that they don't want Oshiomhole back? Is it that same ward?
Now, here's the answer. Here's the deal. Now, in law, first of all, the local government consists of multiple people, right?
Yes.
Except if you are referencing the executive of that ward, the faction that has been expelled. So remember, one fact remains that that faction has been expelled from the party. But assuming without conceding that it is that faction that is validated by the court, these individuals have joined the governor and have left the party. So in the eyes of the law, the members of the executive are those ones that are seated at the moment. So it doesn't matter if someone is sponsored to show some degree of excitement, youthful exuberance, or acrobatic in whatever form of expression that they make. One fact is clear: law does not look at sentiment, does not look at emotion, does not look at media, does not even look at television picture. The law looks at legality, procedure, and whether or not that is followed.
Well, let me ask you, do you have any fears that what is happening in the APC now can result in the implosion of the party? Because we saw something similar happen to the PDP in 2014, 2015, and you had some persons pulling out of the party. And now it's like the same story all over again with the APC at the state level in Edo, at the federal level with the chairmanship of the party. Do you have any fears that if this is not well managed, the party could pay a heavy price for it in the 2023 election?
I believe what you've just said. And funny enough and intriguing, I expressed that a few days ago. In fact, we even wanted to issue a press statement that all the parties involved in this crisis should take note that this is a seed they are planting. That is exactly how PDP started. And they kept living in this assumption that we can manage it, it's not a problem, it's not a big deal, until it consumed them. And APC is not immune from that. Crisis, when not managed, must definitely reflect in the problem. It's just like COVID-19. When it affects somebody who has a pre-existing condition, in this case, the party has an underlying medical condition, underlying political condition, which is the crisis here and there. If you do not manage it, that COVID-19 may have left after 14 days. But the after effect of that is a triggering of those pre-existing conditions that would then result in fatality. And I'm saying it, even as a party, I said it, and it bears repeating. If the party does not take care and sit down to resolve this matter, and when I talk about the party, I'm talking about active involvement and participation of the entire stakeholders, including the President of the Federal Republic. If there is no intervention, there is no negotiation, there is no discussion going to 2023, I can tell you right off the cuff, the party to win the presidential election might be PDP or any other strong opposition party.
Let's talk about Governor Obaseki. Whether you're pro-Adams Oshiomhole or not, the fact is that he does appear to be a popular governor amongst his people. Why did APC fail to manage the relationships between these two men such that APC has now squandered the power of incumbency, which we know is a big factor in elections all over the world, and you've allowed your rivals, PDP, to exploit it? And they're so impressed by that, which he brings on board, that they've postponed their primaries, as you mentioned earlier, to the 23rd. They're still 4 days shy of INEC's deadline of the 27th. But PDP is clearly rolling out the red carpet for this person that you seem to just have discarded cavalierly.
Well, first of all, let me correct the impression. I am not pro-Oshiomhole, I'm pro-APC constitution, which fortunately is in favor of the steps Oshiomhole is taking and not in favor of the steps Governor Obaseki has taken. Secondly, Governor Obaseki has a legal disability, so he is not an asset to APC, he's a liability going into the election. Considering what happened in Bayelsa's case in the Supreme Court, anybody who has certificate problem knows the end before he starts the journey. So it is not a loss that Governor Obaseki is leaving to contest on the platform of a PDP. It is a loss that as a member of the party, he's leaving the party. But in terms of contesting, even if he stays in APC and is granted the ticket, assuming APC close their eyes in impunity and clear him, all in the name of he's an incumbent, give him also option of first refusal, APC will definitely know the end from the beginning. Because having sat as a secretary and member of the appeals committee, I have the exclusive privilege of looking at documents that he submitted. I reviewed the document vis-a-vis the Constitution of Nigeria, the Electoral Act, and the Constitution of the party, APC, and the guidelines. And there is no way you can arrive at a decision to clear somebody who has a legal disability when you know there has been decision of the Supreme Court that have frowned at such incidents. So in a nutshell, I am sad he's leaving the party as a member, and no political party will be happy that a member is leaving, not to talk of someone who is an incumbent governor. Okay. But I am not sad that he's leaving as a candidate because he has a legal disability.
Okay, you're talking about this in less than 20 seconds. This same malaise you said he had with his certificate, but he was cleared to be governor the last time. What is different this time, and what is really wrong with his certificate?
Okay, I will just tell you what is different right off the cuff. As of 2016, he presented a degree certificate. The degree certificate appeared to be regular. And because there is no contrary document to that effect, under the doctrine of presumption of regularity, you have to clear him. That degree certificate which he presented contained the signature of the Vice Chancellor, that of the registrar, and with a date, which is consistent with the degree certificate that every other person who graduates from the Nigerian university will show to you. However, in 2020, he presented another degree certificate, not separate, purported to be the same, just like the way if you misplace a document, you go to court to have, you go to the university to have it reprinted or to have some attestation to that effect. He presented another one. This one appears to be, this one has the signature of the Vice Chancellor. However, there is no signature of the registrar and there is no date on it.
Well,
but you
thank you very much. Thank you very much, Daniel Bwala, for joining us this morning on The Morning Show.